Welcome to the Mischief. I'm Vallen, and this is Astral Sorcery, Attunement, Part 1. So continuing from where we left off last time, we are now going into the Attunement chapter, and this is when we start getting rather interesting results. I'm not going to be covering this entire chapter, as you notice this is Part 1. I'll be covering everything except this upper area here. Basically, your personal attunement perks, your ritual pedestal and stuff, that will be in the next episode. But for now, I'm going to be covering all the rest of this, including how to get to the next chapter if you so desire. And let's start off with the telescope. Now, you already have a hand telescope, and if you take this and put it on your newly made starlight crafting altar, you can make yourself a telescope. I'm not going to go through the crafting right now because it was a relatively straightforward recipe, but once you have this, you can then place it down. I recommend you place it not next to anything. Basically you have a clear area and it's open to the sky, same as before when you had a hand telescope. You're also going to want it to be nighttime. As you see here, there is a little bit of a fade, and you can start scrolling through instead of having to actually start searching the skies. Now, you will not have all the constellations available to you. You will only have the constellations that are currently out at night that you have unlocked as well, which are the brighter constellations, or major ones as some people call them. And those will show up in the sky as you unlock them. I have unlocked the first 5 so far. If I obtain any more constellation papers at this point, beyond the 5, I will start getting them reading there is nothing here, and it won't unlock anything further. So, what I recommend you do is you take your journal, and you go through the Constellations tab, clicking on each one and understanding which one they are. As before, if you need to draw any lines, you don't need to hold Shift anymore, as this thing is already being held still for you. So therefore, it's much easier to work with, and you can just draw lines on there willy-nilly. Of course, you exit out and go back in, the lines will disappear, so keep that in mind. Also, as you unlock these in your Constellations tab, when you click on them, it will actually give you a little bit of information. It shows you the different moon phases that they're most likely to show up at during your scheduled time. So depending on the right now, that's a full moon as it's set up. And you can click on each one. They'll give you a little bit of information that might come in handy a little bit later on. But as far as right now, it's not going to be that useful because I have not shown you the rest of it. The next part I'm going to be showing you is going to be the linking tool. Recipe for this is very simple, just a little bit of wood and some aquamarine. Any old rock crystal will do. It doesn't have to be anything fantastic. I'd probably take my weakest, crappiest one that I've found in the world and use that, as it will not have any effect on the tool itself. Once you've crafted it up on your altar, you can then use this to link things together. Many different things, in fact. Most likely anything that's going to be dealing with starlight. In this case, I have a floating crystal, and I've just set it to daytime. Now, if I have an altar nearby, if I look here, you see that I currently have a very minimal amount of, starlight in here. I can link this to other items, which can be quite beneficial. Now, in your journal, you'll notice that the linking tool is connected to iron transmutation as well as a crystal lens. Now, the crystal lens will allow you to basically take the light from a floating crystal and move it around quite a bit further than you would normally. Otherwise, you can still use the linking tool on this. Simply by right-clicking, it will tell you that it's selected that crystal, and then you can select another block to aim it at, and it is linked to that area, and you'll see a beam of light coming off of it. If you want to cancel this, just click on the crystal again, and then shift right-click on that same block, and it says unlinked. If you need to cancel what you're currently working on, just scroll off of the tool, and you can scroll back onto it, and it will say stopped linking. Now, before I get into more of transmutation, let's actually craft up a bit of some lenses so that we can move this light around from this floating crystal as we would like to. Now, this is where rock crystals are actually going to be very important in the making of your lenses. Not glass lenses, lenses. This one here is at maximum size, purity, and cutting. And that is because I used a specific, I cheated it in, okay. But you get the idea that with this, you can make a lot of different stuff. Let's see, if I put these together, I'm actually doing this for a reason. I'm showing you that there's going to be a specific reason why you need to have a type of rock crystal. Now, the cutting in this creation is going to make no difference, so ignore cutting. But if I have something with low purity and a low size, it will make a big difference. All right, there we go. I currently have this set up so that it's ready to craft, except I'm going to need a bit more of, well, a rock crystal. Now, I have enough materials to make this twice. If I use this very low size, very low purity rock crystal here, it'll make only a couple lenses. Actually, I don't have enough starlight here. Hold on. There we go. Nighttime should do it. And yes, we have more than enough now. If I take my resonating wand, there we go. I now have some lenses. Now, just for argument's sake, I'm going to eliminate the lens that's in my inventory. Pick this up and you see that I got 2 lenses. I hold shift and it says the size, purity, and cutting as before, as that is the rock crystal that was used. Now let me repeat this with a full-size rock crystal. I also have a very high purity on this rock crystal as well. So it's kind of a 2 points that I'm making with this one. Reason being is that the purity is going to increase the amount of starlight that will be able to pass through these lenses. The size is going to increase the quantity of lenses that you make per crafting. And there we go. Now I'll pick these up, and I have 5 this time instead of 2, and they have a different size. Now you notice that the size here is not maximum. It says it's blue 400. That's because you can use a bigger rock crystal type just to make this actually bigger, if you so desire, and therefore get more lenses out of that crafting setup. But just know that so far, just having the size bigger, I was able to make 3 more lenses with the same amount of materials. And once again, if you need to make the size bigger on your rock crystal, just soak it in some liquid starlight for a while. Now for the test. I currently have here the really crappy purity and the maximum purity. If I take this cruddy one and I take this really good one, I should be able to focus from this crystal onto the table to enhance its amount of starlight. Now the problem here is that this floating crystal is going to need access to the sky first. And that means that this pretty fountain is going to have to go bye-bye. So we get rid of this, we then poke a hole through so that it goes all the way down into the room below. And you can see the crystal now has access to the sky, which is what we're looking for. Now if I take my linking tool and I link it over here to one of these crystals, it says linked collector crystal to the lens, and soon enough you will see a light beam actually transporting to it. Let's get that out of the way just to make sure it's not blocked. I did need to move it a bit closer as that was a little bit too far away, but they are the same crystal lenses that we had before. Now let me also split this over to another one. And there we have a split amount of equal crystal light, or, well, starlight coming through. And as you see here, the light is rapidly fading because it is daytime. I set this on purpose so that you can see the difference here. Now if I take this lens and I focus it on this table, which you can see where the current level is, it's just past the hand telescope, if you will. Click it over here, there we go, link it to the altar. It then shines on it, and you see that it gives it about, well, one inventory space's worth of light. So now let's unlink this. Right click, shift right click, unlinked, the light fades, and it goes back down to where it was. Now if I choose the purified lens, or the maximum purification, click on here, it's linked to the altar, it then lights up and gets considerably more starlight. So this is just proof of concept that basically, if you need more starlight, make sure that you've got a pretty decent purity level on the rock crystals that you use to make your lenses. Now that we've finished up with linking tools, telescopes, crystal lenses, and let's get into iron transmutation. Iron transmutation is just the beginning. It is actually very interesting, and it will take use of the linking tool as we had before. That's the wrong chest. Let me grab something out of here. Here we go. I now have some iron ore. Let's put these down. I'm just going to put them up along this wall. There we go. And now I'm going to right-click this, and I'm going to click on some of this iron ore. It's linked there, and you start seeing some glowy particles. Let's link to a few more, shall we? Let's do this. And as you can see, I now have starlight going onto all of this iron ore. The problem is that it's daytime, so this is going to take forever. So allow me to change it to night. This should rapidly increase the speed at which that the iron ore gets transmuted into star metal. And there we go. And just as a reminder, the more you branch this off, the weaker the starlight is. It will distribute the starlight amongst all the different connections that you have. So if you want something really strong, I recommend you only have one beam coming off instead of several. All right, so now that I've turned this into star metal ore, let's mine it up, and we can then use it for, well, decoration. No, you could if you want. It's actually very pretty. But there's more to it than just that. If I put some star metal ore in a furnace, I'm just using a bucket of lava for fuel at this point, it should smelt up into star metal ingots, just as if iron ore would in a furnace as well. Now what do you do with star metal ingots? Still, not very much. But this is where you use your grindstone. You're going to put that on here, and you're going to want to grind it up until you get... There we go. Stardust, which then becomes a very valuable, well, more or less crafting ingredient, but it does have some other uses too. Now that I've made some stardust, there is something else that I can do to help others progress with Astral Sorcery, and that is written expertise. With this recipe here using illumination powder, some stardust that I just made, ink sac, parchment, feather, on our crafting table, we can make a scroll of written expertise, which will transfer all of the knowledge and different unlocks that we found in the sky to someone else. It'll be put on a piece of paper, as you saw here, and then once you put that information on it, as you say here, it's just right-click or shift-right-click to write down your knowledge, and then they just do the same in order to learn it, and then they can join you with your Astral Sorcery information as well. So I've showed you how to split these different starlights off of this floating crystal, as well as harness it in order to use it on your starlight crafting altar. You can feasibly chain these together, the lenses, for quite some distance, but the further you go and the more lenses these go through, the weaker and weaker it's going to get, and the less benefit you're going to have on your altar. Now that we've made star metal, there is another transmutation that you can do. Let me grab a few more materials, and then I'll show you that as well. There are a lot of things that you can transmute with this. Allow me to demonstrate. This is just a sample of them. You might be able to find more or less as time goes on, but netherrack, some sandstone, a sea lantern, magma block, a pumpkin, netherwart block, diamond ore, and sand. Each one will have their own different transformations and should turn into something in time. And there you go, you can see that many different blocks have been transformed into many other different blocks. We've got clay, emerald ore, and cake made from sand, diamond ore, and a pumpkin. Obsidian previously was a magma block, lapis lazuli was previously a sea lantern, endstone was previously sandstone, netherwart block was previously soul sand, and netherbrick was previously netherrack. Now you may notice at this point that there is an alignment charge in here. This basically alludes to the fact that you can further harness starlight into wands and other attunements. We're going to be focusing on a couple of the wands here. Starting with the formation wand, which you can make with some of that stardust that we just created, plus some rune marble. We'll make this fantastic wand. Let me tell you, this is like the best builder's wand there is. All right, so I have just added into my inventory a stack of stone and a stack of granite. I have my formation wand. This works by simply just shift right-clicking an object that you have in your inventory that you would like to build more of. In this case, stone. So therefore, if I aim at this or any other facing, you can see that I can build from a long distance a very large amount of, well, stone. In this case, pow. Just like that. And then I could build out from that, I can build down. It's wonderful. It makes it, but it will only build from your inventory. So obviously you need to have some already existing. In this case, let's see if I put down a piece of granite. I then shift right click the granite. I can then build on top of that as well. Now to complement this further, if we are to go to the next page, we currently have the conversion wand, which is a little bit more expensive with diamonds, but it also requires some stardust in the rune there. And of course, you'll be able to make that, and it will make this fantastic wand of kind of, well, conversion, but exchange. So let's say that I didn't want this stone to be stone. I wanted it to be granite. Shift, right click, and you can see there it says I have 57 in my inventory, and it will change all these, boop, to stone. or to granite rather, just like that, using those in my inventory. And of course, it mines them as if they had been mined with a pick. So I did not get smooth stone back. I got cobblestone, and they all just kind of drop to the ground unless you have some kind of magnet or something along those lines. But keep that in mind that the items will just pop out of the ground as if they've been mined. So if you're trying to silk touch something, it's not going to work in that manner. But now that I place this down, I can then try and shift right click the cobblestone and change a bunch of the andesite back with those that I had in my inventory there. And that's not all of the wands. There's still another one that we're going to cloud your inventory with, and that is the Vortex Wand. The wand of absolute fun and doom. You're going to need some ender pearls, more ruined marble, and of course that stardust that we just made. And this thing is forever going to last you for a lot of fun, in my mind. It's basically a grappling hook. It'll only go so far, so if I toss this out, it will break, and just disappear. And you have a little meter at the top there, so if I'm underground using this or any of the other wands, you might run a bit low, depending upon what your affinities and attunements are. But they will recharge slowly, depending upon how much access you have to the sky. Now, the Vortex Wand, it is... I'm in creative right now, so keep that in mind. I toss this up here, and it will pull me. Whoa! As you notice, I kind of flung over top. So it kind of launches you up a little bit higher, but you have to be careful how you aim, because you can easily launch yourself over top of something if you weren't expecting to. But it is a very fun and fast way of getting around places. I could use it to climb up all these stairs real quick. But if I showed you before, if you kind of aim a little bit over top of these, you might miss out on something else. Or rather, you might miss it and therefore launch yourself to your death. But it's a very fun and fast method of just constantly being able to, move yourself around. Yes, you can latch onto entities briefly as well, so be careful that you don't accidentally, kind of vortex wand yourself onto a creeper. Now that I've shown you those wands, I'm going to show you another structure. This one here is called the Celestial Gateway, if you follow it back down this way here. And it is crafted with a whole lot of stardust, as well as one of those star metal ingots, so you don't want to grind them all up. You're going to need some more rock crystals, of course, but in this case, you don't have to have them with any particular abilities or affinities that you need to worry about. The glass lenses won't make a difference either. And of course, a little bit of illumination powder. Now that's not all. It'll make this Celestial Gateway, which you will place down on top of this structure here, which, as before, will take quite a bit of materials. So hopefully you've got some stored up. It's a 7x7 structure with 2 blocks high. It's not too bad, and it's right here. If I walk up top here and I start getting inside of this, it starts getting dim. It has to be open to the sky, unless of course you're in the nether, in which case there may be an exception. So if you do make one of these underground, it's not going to function as intended. But you'll notice that when I get closer to the center, or the Celestial Gateway itself, everything turns black. And I will start getting, a picture is taken. What was that? That was actually a screenshot that's saved for this location, because this is a teleportation pad. If you make multiples of these in the world, if you see here, I have one down there. I also have one in another dimension. So let's take a look. This one here, if I want to see where it's going, you can always just kind of take a few steps back up. And then if I want to go over to this one down below, for example, I just kind of look at it. I hold shift while standing in the center, and I should teleport over there. But in this case, I have never been there before. So it's going to take a picture of this one as well. So therefore, if I look back to where I was with this one, hold shift, I'll briefly see an image up at the top there of what that one looks like. It kind of takes this little screenshot like when you saw before. So if I hold shift, it will eventually teleport me back up to the top. Here I am back at the top. Let me teleport back down, and you can see that I was actually at the area in the plains field with all the horses and so on at the bottom of this mountain. Now there was another Celestial Gateway, and I did mention interdimensional travel. That may be different. Now these are going to be very difficult if you have them all lined up, like you have all of them lined up along the same plane. It's just going to be like a single star, and you're going to have difficulty in actually getting from one to the next unless you teleport one at a time. So you don't want these to all line up. It's best if they're just kind of scattered around in a circle. Now let's go over here and see what is at this side. Oh my, I'm actually in the nether. I have come through previously and placed one of these down. It is not open to the sky, even though it's required in other dimensions. But as the Nether doesn't have a sky, this still works in that manner. So I might have a little problem here because I can't actually see my way back because it's obscured by the walls. All right, that took a little bit of digging, but as you can see, once I opened up enough space, I was able to see the two different points to get back home. And therefore, if I press Shift, while standing on the gateway itself, I will see a brief glimpse of what each of these look like. And I'm back home. Now you'll notice I'm at the top of this mountain, and as before, I had this one little yellow spot here below me. The reason being is I have that set up as my nether portal down here. You'll never have to actually go below the horizon line that you're currently at with one of these altars when you're looking at it. So this is as low as it's going to go. It's going to be here or above. So keep that in mind, that if you are making celestial gateways that are down below you, they're still going to be at a horizon level. So to sum up this episode, we're going to cover the Celestial Altar, which is the key to getting into the next chapter, Constellation. My next part will be covering this area of this chapter, Attunement. So don't try to jump too far ahead. But anyway, let's get into the Celestial Altar. This one here is just going to take some of the materials that you just unlocked, as well as a new setup. But it's not too bad. It's just kind of a slight expansion on your existing one. And now with the proper setup and enough starlight, I should be able to convert this. There we go. I hope you guys enjoyed this video on Astral Sorcery Attunement Part 1. Tune in next time for Part 2, where we cover a lot more information about how to set you up to become more powerful on your own. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give a like, comment, subscribe, and as always, spread the mischief to others if you think they'll enjoy this content too. Until next time, folks, I'll see ya.